towards where Davy Rogers is up. Rogers swings the left. Oh, Davy Rogers! What a goal by Davy Rogers!
Not one person in this stadium seen this goal at half time.
You can see the guards behind the goal at the main stand. They will be investigating Shamrock for robbery. They have absolutely mugged Treaty United here at Tottenham.
Roberts find the goal! Harry Wood, the jersey's off. 6 minutes to go.
Look at the bad one! What a goal that is!
Hi, folks. Welcome to a new episode of my podcast. This one is slightly different. It's similar to what we had yesterday because we were free in the videos, and we are free again. Just the topic is quite different from what we had yesterday. And maybe you can guess what is it about based on the introduction. It's football. So if you are still with us, that's great. That tells that you are interested. If you know someone who is very much into football, whether it's football in Ireland or even a football fan who is watching games in South America or in Asia, bring him in, because it's always good to know how is football elsewhere. Like I learned a lot since I got into Irish football myself. I'm today joined by Matt O'Rourke and Cornell. And
hello.
So Matt O'Rourke, he's the man behind LOITalk, or the main man, let's put it that way. And I'm very curious to understand his journey. How did it start? Where is he at the moment? What he plans to do in the future? So I think the best way to gather that is to have the person who is driving it the most. And other thing I want to make it clear, I'm part of the team, so I'm biased. So if I'll be here giving some compliments, first they are fair, but I want to say I'm part of the team, and I want to tell Matt now that we are on this call. I want to tell a big thanks for welcoming me. I'm delighted to be part of it with my Cork City articles and now with this podcast. So the intent for you folks, for you to know, is that every Thursday we will gather here, 2, 3, 4 of us, and just discuss what happened last week and what we predict to happen in the next couple of days. So I will pass the ball to Matt for him to tell me how did he get into LOITalk.
Hi lads. So LOITalk started about the end of 2022, start of 23. We set it up because there wasn't really a lot of fan-run journalism accounts for the League of Ireland. We thought we wanted to fill a gap. Our main kind of goal, though, is that we are all fans, so it is our opinions. So that's the main kind of goal behind it. So we have we've started our podcast now, but we also have our website where there's hundreds of articles now. We've gone Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're on every mainstream social media now, apart from Facebook. But the way we started was we got a WordPress set up, and we just started posting articles, really, and it caught on a good bit. And especially this season, we've quadrupled in just these 2 months what we've done in the whole of 2023, which is amazing growth compared to last year. We strive ourselves on our fan-run kind of operations. We don't like to we like having our own people doing it. So it is a very good operation. Now, how we set it up was just a couple of us came together. We all had the idea. Myself, Keane, and Matthew all had the idea of setting it up, and we kind of just went ahead with it. I personally managed the website the most and how the journalism operations, but Keane and Matthew are more based on social media. So if you see any of the social media accounts, it's more run by him. And then more recently, our TikTok is set up by Jamie. But it's been quite a challenge. Like, we have overcome a lot of kind of hiccups, especially with the website. Sometimes it's a bit dodgy, things will break, but we did persevere and we have kept through. So, do you have any other comments on that, or Vitor?
I think that's very much clear. Like, I think there was a gap that you wanted to fill, And I think that's the best way to start a mission, when you feel that there is something there to be covered, and you believe that you have the potential and the right people around you. That's I think that's the best beginning. And in terms of prospects for this season, you told me already what you did so far. Is there any venture that you have in mind? Anything you are have in perspective?
Well, by the end of the year, we hope to raise enough money through fan donations to buy our own domain and get a proper WordPress plan, so we can upgrade the website even more and make it even more professional. And by making it more professional, we'll get FAI media accreditation complete by the start of next year. In January is when the next applications run out. I'd say that's the long-term goal for the page. As a short-term goals, we're just trying to keep the views on this amazing growth that we've seen the last 2 months, especially. We want to keep that upward trajectory and grow our social medias as much as possible. I say that's as simple as it gets when it comes to the goals.
Yeah, it's essential these days. Like, without social media, you will go nowhere. It's part of the deal. Like it or not, it's something that you need to master, maintain, and make it accessible to others. And I think people like when you are tangible. That's something I learned. Like, I started the podcast a year ago, and one of the things that people value is when they can feel that you are someone that people can approach. I think that's very, very good, and you guys do that. I can gather that, especially on X. So if someone wants to collaborate, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, the best way to get in touch is if you found us on social media, you can reach out directly on social media by sending us a message or tweeting us, or I'm not sure TikTok is that accessible for reaching out, but obviously we have our link tree, which links to our website. We do have contact forms on our website as well. That's how Vitor actually got in contact with me due to the website. So we do offer, like, you could message us anywhere, and we are more than welcome. We're always looking for writers, people who are tech savvy with social media, to come on board and help us on our journey. So as you can see, guys, Matt is really keen for you guys to interact. So here's my invite. Drop the comments in the chat. We want to make sure that this is dynamic. It's not just a one-side conversation. We want to hear from you, because that's how things get interesting, if there are multiple people providing their opinions and insights. So don't be shy. The chat box is open. So if there is anything you want to add or comment, you are more than welcome. I'm going to now pass the ball to Cornell for him to introduce himself. Tell the audience a couple of words.
Yes. My name is Cornell, mostly known as DJ Cornell B, which is my DJ name because I do DJing and producing as well. I've been a fan of the League of Ireland for a few years. I got into the League of Ireland when Mark Kennedy, who was manager of Lincoln City Football Club, and also Lincoln City Football Club's connection with the Irish League as well, and bringing in Irish players like Danny Mandroiu and Dylan Duffy and so on. That's how it all started. And not only just that, I like the talents that are in the League of Ireland, who are really progressing and really improving and really developing and turning into the next big thing. Like, for example, Jack Moylan, obviously, who was playing for Shelburne and scored 15 goals, leveled with Ofalabi 2 seasons ago, and made the move to Lincoln City and has really become an absolute phenomenon with Lincoln City. And I just love the feeling of the League of Ireland, and how you see managers like Stephen Bradley, Stephen Kenny, who's dominated the League of Ireland and won the most League of Ireland titles, and done the history with Dundalk, and who's about to do even more history and with St. Pat's and help them to be the favourites of the League of Ireland this season.
Yeah. Have you been in any of the venues here in Ireland? I know you are in England, but have you had a chance to attend any game, and you want to share the experience?
I haven't actually experienced like going to a League of Ireland game or coming to Ireland, but that is something that I would really like to do at some point and learn to see a League of Ireland game myself, and then at least I can say I have seen a League of Ireland team and a League of Ireland game.
Yeah, I have to say, like in front of you, and I'm not saying I want to make it clear. I'm not being cute. I'm not here to get likes or claps, but I'm a big fan of the Irish fans, and I put it that just to everyone. Like, I like the way you guys get into the venue, the passion you put, and how fair you are to what happens in the pitch. I think you are a great example. Of course, there are always some weirdos here and there, but that's part of a crowd, no? But overall, like, I'm a big fan of the way you behave. You cheer for the team, even when things are not going that well. I think you are an example. Like, I've been in Venice, in my home country, in Portugal. I've been in Poland, which is a completely different story, and a couple of others. But the Irish are my favorite. And again, I'm not saying that just to be popular. I really mean it. Okay, so let's talk about the games from last week. I prepared here a list. Let me see if I can make it. So I would like you guys just to tell me, like, how did you perceive the games? If it was what you expected, or some team underperform. I mean, I leave up to you. It's a pretty formal conversation. I might say a couple of words myself, but I will pass the ball first. So Cork City 2, Galway 2. I will start with Matt.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is a very good result for Tim Clancy's team coming back up from the first division. I'd say it is a bit of a heartbreak, especially with the late goal in the first half from Galway. And like, it is a heartbreaking result because from the highlights I've seen of it, I haven't got a chance to watch the full game, Cork looked much stronger than Galway, which was surprising when you look at Galway's position when they finished fifth in the table last year, because Galway had a very strong season coming up from the first division as well. But I'd say it's a good result for both teams. Cork probably did deserve the 3 points, but you can't Galway out of a point either. So it was a very tight game.
Yeah,
do you have anything to say, Cornell?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Matt say. It was a very, very tight game. Cork City, a team that was in the first division last season and won the first division title last season, with high expectations for them to be back in the Premier Division this season. Watched the game. Obviously, I thought Cork City played really well. They responded very well from being 2 goals down, and that's the thing. I'm a bit shocked of Galway United, because I think, especially with all the expectations of Moses Dyer as well, who just come in from the Canadian League, and honestly, I think the high expectations is going to be on him for him to score the goals. And I think Patrick Hickey as well is also another player that I think is going to be one to watch this season. But absolutely brilliant game, and you've got to credit Cork City. They look much more stronger, as Matt said, and I think they're going to be very, very of a team that will probably be ones to watch when you've got Rory Keating, who was at St. Pat's and didn't really work out for him, and obviously he's come back to Cork City where it all started for him to get back to his best, and him and Sean Maguire are going to be very, very key. But I think the biggest player right now and the biggest talent in the Cork City team now will be Cathal O'Sullivan, and I think he'll be one to watch. But honestly, this game, obviously, I think was for the taking, and I think obviously, Cork City wanted the 3 points, but I think a draw was a very valuable result, and it'll be very interesting to see how they do in the next game.
Yeah, so I was at the game. I was in Turner's Cross myself, and for people who don't know, I'm a Cork City fan, so I'm going to be a bit biased in my comments. I'll try to set aside the emotions, but I will try to be as neutral as I can. Even you can see the scarf there, so there's nothing to hide. Cork City was very strong. Was way stronger than let's say a couple of years ago when I started to follow. Was even stronger than last year. I would even say that the Cork City of the first division was stronger than the Cork City of the Premier Division 2 years back. which is a bit mad, but it is what it is. So I was very impressed with the attack. I think if we think about the guys at the front, say Keating, Maguire, the Dutch guy, I cannot pronounce the name. O'Sullivan was not on the pitch, but when he'll be there, he will make a big difference. I think we have a lot of reasons to be optimistic. Now, the back, they seem very insecure. And one of the reasons I think is they don't know themselves that well. And it's vital, especially I believe that the communication between the keeper and the defenders needs to be clear. Like the keeper says a word and they understand the message right away. That's not the case. And I want to say that's not the case yet. Maybe that's something that Tim Clancy can work on. And once this is operating, I think City fans can be up for a very, very positive season. And what I mean by that maybe we can be, I don't know, 4th, 5th, something like that. But if the fans don't put their act together, we'll be fighting again for the relegation. So that's my takeaway from the game. So I'm gonna move forward to next one. And so St. Patrick's, Neil, Drogheda, Neil. I'll just say one thing on this very quick. I was expecting Pats to beat Drogheda. I think Pats finished last year as team number 1. I mean, I think the manager, it's a life changing for the squad, and I was hoping that will be reflected in the game. And I didn't see the highlights. Just I was expecting more from Pats and Drogheda. Maybe they can do a bit better than last year, but not to the point that they can challenge Pats in Chicor. So I'll pass the ball now to Cornell.
Yeah. Yes. I watched the game, St. Patrick's versus Drogheda. I thought that was a very, very good game. I thought both teams defended very, very well. Obviously, St. Patrick's were favourite to beat Drogheda, despite them coming out of the Men's President's Cup against Shelburne, and they wasn't at their best, even though despite its pre-season. But St. Pat's, obviously, I think a team that is favourite to win the League of Ireland this year, especially when you've got a fantastic manager like Stephen Kenny. I would obviously say that they are favourites to win, but Drogheda, I think you would have expected them to respond from that loss against Shelburne. But look, I think they're still going to be underdogs this season. So I don't think it's not over for them. They'll win the next game. But I think a very valuable point was obviously the very, very fair result.
Matt?
Yeah, I think it's a very disappointing result if you look at it for Stephen Kenny. Drogheda are on paper a weaker team than his side, especially if you look at the end of last season where Stephen Kenny went on something like a 9 games with 0 losses. Incredible run at the end of the season to get themselves back into a title race. It wasn't a good enough effort by St. Pat's to overcome Drogheda. And that's not the count out Drogheda, because Drogheda did look very strong in the highlights. And obviously their keeper is playing amazing as well. So, it's disappointing for Kenny to not get the 3 points. But it's a very strong effort by Drogheda.
All right, so next one we have is Shelburne 3, Derry 1. Just before I pass the ball back to you, Matt, I just want to ask people out there, write the comments. This is not just us. This is everyone that is watching and us that are on the podcast. So let's try to make it interactive. So we are more than happy to get people's thoughts. So Matt, I will keep the ball with you for this one as a Shelburne fan. I think you need to start the conversation here.
Yeah. Well, I was at the game, obviously, and it was a very strong Shelburne performance. I mean, I thought we looked very strong from the start. Derry didn't really have a look in the first half, I thought, apart from obviously when they scored. But apart from the moment where that header came in from Michael Duffy, they didn't have any solid opportunities. I mean, Shelburne were hopping all over them, running circles around them for the first half. Obviously, there was a large, sizable break in between the two halves because of the power outage. But in the second half, I thought Shelburne were still the stronger team, and Mipo Obideko was very unlucky to not score because he did have a handful of opportunities and he couldn't finish them. But if Mipo Obideko could work on his finishing and one-on-one, he could probably be the top scorer, in my opinion. He looked unbelievable. It's just he wasn't clinical in front of goal. Apart from that, it was really a one-sided game, I'd say. There wasn't much Derry action. They didn't look like they were going to challenge the game from minute one.
Before I
Cornell, do you
pass
have
the ball
anything
to
to say?
Cornell, I just want to ask you
Yeah.
one thing, Matt, since you were in talk. What happened to the electricity? I know this is not exactly the game, but I just read it on the news. What happened? Is Shelburne not able to pay the energy bill, or what's that?
Unfortunately, it isn't to do with the power bill. It was to do with a blown fuse from one of the electrical boxes in the ground. From what I've heard, it was the one in the Ballybock end, which is the away end, but I don't think there was any interference. There was an ESB member in the crowd, and he was able to get the game back going along with the help of on-duty ESB workers. So it was a very tense situation, especially in the stands, because we all thought the game was going to get cancelled. But the match held out, and thank God, because we wouldn't have gotten the 3 points if the game would have gotten cancelled. So,
yeah, Cornell.
Obviously, this game was a fantastic game. Two teams that obviously battered it out last season on the final day of the season last season, where Shamrock Rovers was on the verge of winning their 5th consecutive League of Ireland last season, and obviously due to the goal difference, and then out of nowhere, Harry Woods scores the winning goal to win them their first League of Ireland title since 2006 to end a 15-year wait. But despite that Derry was favourite to win this game, which they were, and they were very, very hyped to go into this game and believe that they can go on and beat Shelburne, then obviously I think, I'll be honest, Derry did underestimate Shelburne, to be honest, because Shelburne obviously last season they were top for a reason, and the reason why is that because Shelburne have been improved by Duff, and you can understand why Duff is the best manager right now, because the way he's improved the team, the way he's brought in new additions. Last season was the same thing when they had Will Jarvis, and I'll be honest, I did question them, and I was like, well, where are the goals going to come from without Will Jarvis being in the team? But right now it was answered last season, and now this season, now they've added even more: Ryan O'Kane, Daniel Kelly to Maid Obolenko, and obviously keeping Sean Boyd was basically the biggest thing that they've done, because obviously he had interest from St. Mirren, and obviously he was on the verge of leaving. But I think them scoring 3 goals, in that game and beating Derry, despite that Derry scored the equaliser through Michael Duffy, I think it's important to say that Shelburne are going to be in and around that top 4, obviously challenging. And I think they won't be, they'll be very difficult to stop. But as I say, look, Shelburne are the reason why they are the team that they are. And Damien Duff is the best that he is. And you can't underestimate Dylan Duff right now, because the Ellis Chapman's gone there now after his success at Salogo Rovers. But right now, Shelburne are the ones to watch this season, and I think if they carry on playing the way they're playing, I think they won't be stopped this season.
So you got a comment, Cornell.
Yeah, I can see that. Big up Connor Matt Convoy. Obviously, I'm a massive fan of the Rep Tracker. Thank you very much.
And we got a question here. I'm going to read it out loud from Joseph Jones. Hi lads, thoughts on Brian? Is it Marr? Brian Marr? Is it?
Yeah.
Am I pronouncing correct? So sometimes I struggle with Irish names, so I can take this as a Irish Western exercise for myself. Is he good enough for the title challenge Derry will want to mount over the next few years? Love the Twitter. Keeps me up to date with all the things. Thanks for the compliments on Twitter. Would you like to answer this, maybe, Matt?
Yeah. From Friday, Brian Maher didn't look up to it. He was out of his position a lot in the goal. The first goal scored by Sean Boyd, that was just a mistake by Brian Maher in general. Like I know the midfield messed up and the ball went into Sean Boyd, but it's also on Brian Maher to be, as the goalkeeper, you have to be ready for any scenario, especially one where you're out your depths. But if you can kind of sharpen the skills and not make silly mistakes like that, I'd still consider him a good goalkeeper. Up for the title challenge now, that's debatable. But yeah.
Do you want to add something, Cordell, to this?
Yes, I can. Yes, Brian Maher, very good goalkeeper. Obviously, is he good enough to help Derry challenge for a title? I'll say yes, he is. I mean, obviously, look, they lost the first game. It's not their fault that they lost the first game to Shelbourne, who are always used to being top of the table and being on top. But for me personally, I think if you look at Derry now, obviously, I mean, don't get me wrong, Ian Lynch, I mean, obviously, who has experience of managing in the Northern Irish League, he knows what it's about, and he knows what type of formation that he wants to use and the style of play that he wants Derry City to obviously play. Because let's be honest, last season, they wasn't at their best. Beginning of the last season, they were fantastic. They were in a title challenging position. They were willing to really take it to the absolute limit to really go on and challenge for the League of Ireland title, but it just fell at the last hurdle. And Rory Higgins obviously was not good enough for Derry. And Derry had some thinking time after the FAI Cup final last season, where they lost to Drogheda, and Drogheda were the better side in the FAI Cup final. And having Ian Lynch, who has that experience now, you could clearly see that he's bringing in experience. And, bringing in the likes of Liam Boyce into it, bringing Gavin White into it, bringing Carl Chester in it, and Shane Ferguson and Don Thomas and Robbie Benson in it, to really boost up the Derry team. I think if they can really get a run going, they've got a chance to really be in the running to challenge for the title. But look, listen, I've said it before and I've said it again. Shelbourne are going to be a hard team to stop when you've got that two strikers of Sean Boyd. When you got Sean Boyd, when you got Mai Belenko, two players that I think are going to be in and around the Golden Boot this season, and it's going to be very difficult. But Derry, I mean, obviously, Michael Duffy, obviously, is going to be key for them. But I think the whole talk is going to be around Liam Boyce, if he can really get them the goal. Patrick Hobben is going to be in and around that Derry team. So I think the door is really open for Boyce to come in. But I think Brian Maher, for me, obviously, I think will still be key. I think he can get his form back up and running again and start getting on the clean sheets. I think he's got a chance of helping Derry to challenge for the title. So
you got one more compliment here. I can see how popular you are. I didn't know that, but I can see now how much. So before I get to next questions, I just want to comment another game, which is not this one. Sligo 2, Waterford 3. I will just say it very briefly. I believe that I don't want to upset Sligo fans, but if I would be one, I wouldn't be looking forward for this season. Somehow I have the feeling that they won't be the happiest in November, and this result is already predicting what I foresee for Sligo at the end of 2025. Matt, what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, I think they lost it. Excuse me. Sligo lost the game because of everything beforehand. I think they didn't have a good transfer window. I mean, they lost their captain. They lost their captain. They also lost Ellis Chapman. They've lost a lot of key players and they haven't replaced them. They've brought in Jadakiki as well, which was a good signing for them, but they haven't had a good transfer window, and I think that will be, if they're going to struggle this season, it will be the reason for that. Waterford obviously had they had a good game. I thought they were the stronger team on the pitch. but they also had a stronger transfer window as well. It's just a lot. I think Sligo are going to be in a lot of trouble this year because they just haven't recruited at all, and they've lost a lot of key players. And it's surprising compared to the position they were in last year. They were fighting for that last European spot, and now they've thrown it away because they just haven't recruited properly. So, but enough about Sligo. Waterford did look the stronger team. They do play well with each other. I thought, especially with some of the signings, that they wouldn't link up well, but by the looks of the highlights, they did link up strongly with each other, especially the midfield, the attackers. And I think Waterford will challenge further this season than they did. They obviously finished 7th, which I don't think is a reflection of their season because they were beating some pretty big names within the season. Obviously, the highlight of their year would probably be beating Shamrock Rovers in Tala. But I think Waterford will be a stronger team this year. They might be even pressing for Europe at a stretch, I'd say.
Cornell, anything from your end on this game?
Yes, Waterford were very, very good against the Sligo Rovers. They showed their class and they showed their quality and why they are a team that I believe that will stay up and really cause a lot of shocks to the top 5 to the big teams in the League of Ireland. Sligo Rovers, on the other hand, look, last season they were fantastic to watch. Last season, they had Ed McGinty, obviously, who was an absolute wicked goalkeeper on loan from Oxford United, and who's now made the biggest move to Shamrock Rovers and really making his name heard in for Shamrock Rovers. And Ellis Chapman was their best player, obviously, who was really running the show for Sligo. But I think since losing their players, I know they've added the likes of Sam Sargent into their team, Matt Wolfe into their team. Obviously, I mean, Hickey is a fantastic side. I thought the goal he scored was just absolutely unbelievable. That's got to be goal contender of for the League of Ireland this season. But I think obviously Sligo Rovers haven't been in the best of form, and they've lost key players, and they haven't really recruited the way they have how you expected. Yes, they've brought in Matty Wolfe into the fold, but I think if they can't recruit new faces and can't bring in the players to really get Sligo Rovers challenging for a European spot come from now to the end of this new season, then I think they're going to really be in a relegation fight this new season in the League of Ireland.
Okay, I'm going to move to the last game from last week. That was Bohemians beating Shamrock Rovers. That was one in Aviva, which is something that we also need to highlight in this conversation. There were more than 30,000 people attending the game, if I remember, which I think is remarkable, and maybe is a sign of optimism for the next few years in Ireland. I hope that will send the message that football is alive and kicking, and if someone needs an incentive, I think what happened in this game, it's the right message. So, what are your thoughts on this game, Cornell? I'll keep the ball on you for now.
Yes, thank you very much. Bohemians versus Shamrock Rovers, massive Dublin derby. Two teams obviously going toe-to-toe, head-to-head with each other. This was like a very, very, very hype game that every League of Ireland fan was looking forward to watching and seeing. And, the hype between both of the teams was just massive. And obviously, I think Bohemians obviously started on the right track at the right place at the right time. Obviously got Shamrock Rovers where they wanted them. And obviously, look, Shamrock Rovers haven't been good enough since last season. Obviously, yes, they're doing very well in Europe, and they're gonna go on a fantastic European Cup run. But this game was a massive game. This is the Dublin derby we're talking about. We're talking about two teams that obviously want to be in the top 4. One team wants to be challenging and winning their 5th consecutive League of Ireland title and to dominate the League of Ireland. And one team is like Bohemians wants to be in and around the European places. And obviously they've made some fantastic signs as well. Connor Pearson's, who was on loan at Dagenham and Webbridge, who's now come in. Alex Lacey from Hartlepool in the EFL, and Whelan coming in as well. Obviously Mose, I think, is a massive, big statement. And, obviously Alan Reynolds was asked about how he can get the best out of him, from Premier League experience, Championship experience, who's a player that's been there and done it, and obviously he didn't fail to impress. He managed to impress. Ross Teaney in that midfield, honestly, brilliant finish. But honestly, I think Connor Pearson's is one player that I feel that is one to watch this season. But Bohemians, for me, they executed the plan, and the plan was to win and to get their first 3 points on the trot, and they'll start building more winning momentum. As for Shamrock Rovers, there is serious problems in the Shamrock Rovers team. You look at their back line now. They've added Adam Matthews into their team. Obviously, that's a massive statement that they've done there. But since Johnny Kenny, who scored 13 goals last season, they haven't replaced him. They need a striker. They need to replace Neil Ferrugia, who's now gone on to Barnsley in League One. They need to replace him. So I think if it is true, obviously Jonathan Ofalabi is going to be linked with Shamrock Rovers to come. Yes, they've added Danny Grant to the fold. They've added Adam Matthews to the fold. And obviously Michael Coonan, honestly, 16 years old. Honestly, I'm very happy for him scoring his first goal in Europe. And, obviously the talk around him is going to be very interesting. And if he is the one to replace Johnny Kenny, I think the pressure will be on him. But I think he'll really get Shamrock Rovers the goals, and he'll really help them to be the team that they are. Healy obviously in it as well. That's a big thing. Danny Grant, obviously, I still think they need another winger. Obviously, if Asamoah, who was at Waterford last season, who really impressed last season, but they are in serious problems, and if they can't bring in any sort of additions to the Shamrock Rovers team, Stephen Bradley and Shamrock Rovers are going to be in serious trouble. So I think they really need to sort their team out and really bring in some new additions.
Matt, your turn.
I think it was a statement by Bohemians to not count them out. I mean, it was an unbelievable game for them. They were the better team overall, I'd say. You wouldn't expect it, but they were the better team. Shamrock Rovers' defence was making too many mistakes at the back, which obviously led to too many chances. The Rovers' attack was good, but they didn't. They just couldn't get the ball over the line. I mean, they did have some exciting opportunities, especially towards the end of the game when it was just kicking the ball up to try and get a goal, try and get a point out of the game. But Rovers weren't good enough. As for Bowles, incredible day for them, especially for Alan Reynolds, which I think is a statement win for him, showing people to not count them out. Bowles will push for this league to hope they'll probably push for Europe. I'd say even try and challenge for third place as well. The main thing about Bowles is that goal was good. I mean, Connor Parsons on the left looked very exciting, especially when he took that shot and it came off and rebounded into Tierney to score. But Bowles' defence was solid, miles ahead of the Shamrock Rovers' defence that day. It does show that Bowles, even though they had a disappointing season last year, they might have a much better one this year. And as for Shamrock Rovers, I think there's going to have to be a bit of change. There's going to have to be a change of tactics, maybe even defence, bringing in younger players, because it just wasn't up to spark. And it's not the type of defence that wins leagues, unfortunately. So
we have a few questions. So I want to thank people. So it's good that you are using the chat box. And also there are a couple of other buttons, like, share. So if you can give us thumbs up, you can share with others. If you can subscribe to the channel, that always helps. Because we are small, we have a lot of will, but we cannot do that ourselves. And this is a teamwork, and you are a part of it. So if you can subscribe, like, and share. I know this is quite annoying, but as a content creator, I need to do this all the time. So I'm going to jump into one of the comments before we discuss this weekend games. And the first I want to ask is about the first division. It came from Ben McEwan, and he says, "Who does you think will get promoted from the first division?" Now, I would bet Cove Rumbers. I think they are very strong. That would be my bet. What about you, Cornell?
For me, who do I think will get promoted from the first division? Dundalk will be one as well. I think they're going to be a team that is one to watch this season. I definitely think their new manager Kieran is really getting the best out of them. When you've got young stars, upcoming stars like Vinnie Leonard, who scored his first goal on the first game of the season in the first division, and I think if Dundalk can carry on the winning mentality, momentum, they'll definitely be around there as well. And obviously, Cove Wanderers as well, I think will be one as well that I think will definitely be around there. So,
Matt, in which team would you put your money?
I'm going to put down Athlone. I think they lost to Dundalk last Friday, but I think they've done a lot of recruiting over the season, especially I think people may not see it, but I think Dane Williams will stand out for them up front. I'd say Athlone, they just look the strongest team in my opinion.
Someone is saying, what about Treaty? It seems we are ignoring them. Is there a reason why you think we don't have a chance?
I'd say they have recruited well. I mean, but there is a mentality to it as well. I mean, has the manager been in that position before to challenge for leagues? No, but I'd say they'd be up there for a promotion relegation playoff. I'd say in the final, even I could say. Do you have anything to say, Corn?
Yeah, I think Treaty United. Let's not underestimate them. You know, they're also, they deserve to be in around it as well. Bray Wanderers is also another team as well. I think Bray Wanderers was very, very unlucky last season not to win against Drogheda in the relegation playoffs. And also not just Bray, not just Treaty United as well. Kerry as well is one of them as well when they won their first game of the League of Ireland first division as well. So I think for me personally, I think if we're looking at possible teams that I think that should be promoted from the first division, not to be disrespectful towards Dundalk, I think Dundalk are still favourites and Cove Wanderers as well. We have to look at the likes of obviously Kerry United as well. They deserve to be in and around there, and also Bray as well too, and Treaty as well. So not ruling those three teams out as well that deserve it.
Okay, I'm going to pick one more question before we start talking about these weekend games. There are quite a lot, which is great. So which one I'm going to pick? I'm going to pick the one about Cork for now. Hi lads, do you reckon Cork can cause an upset and finish top 5 in the table? I already answered that question before it was raised. I believe if the attack it's operating very well and the defense is acting in the same way, but that's how I would see it. What about you, Matt? Any chance for Cork to be on the top 5?
I think the difference between a top 5 and a bottom 5 team in this league, especially, is the defense. I mean, you have to be able to defend against stingy goals. That's the main difference between top 5 and bottom 5. You have to, you can't win. You have to win games by stingy goals, and you have to defend against stingy goals. Because let's face it, a lot of the goals we see in the league are little tap-ins or like stingy ones. But that's what the game is. You have to be able to defend against them. And will Cork finish top 5? They might challenge. It depends really. It all depends on how it all plays out within the league. Whether Waterford or Galway will step up or drop off. How much Sligo drops off. It's really a toss-up, I'd say. But I wouldn't have them down for top 5.
Cornell, how do you see Cork for this season? Any chance to be on top 5?
I obviously want. I would love to see Cork City be in the top 5 this season and be around the European places, because I think if you look at their strike force now, like you look at Rory Keating, you look at Sean Maguire, they are the main 2 strikers that are obviously looking to be Cork City's key players this season. And obviously, I think Sean Maguire is going to be one key player that is going to get them the goals. And, you know, Rory Keating and Maguire will work together to make sure that they're scoring the goals for Cork City. But honestly, for me, if I was to answer this and say that can they cause an upset? Yes, I believe they can. They can cause upsets to big teams. They've got every single chance to cause upsets, because some of the big teams in the League of Ireland have obviously underestimated the small teams that they're not good enough to beat them, and they feel, well, oh, okay, they'll go into that game and beat them. No, you can't underestimate the small teams in this division, because these teams like Shamrock Rovers was for a prime example, were very, very confident that they can go in and beat Bohemians. But no, they fought wrong. Bohemians came with a plan. Cork City, who got a draw against Galway United, they are the team that probably no big team in the League of Ireland wants to be playing. But do I believe they'll be in the top 5? Yeah, I believe they will, and I think they will challenge. And it depends on what Waterford does, depends on what Bohemians do. It depends on what Drogheda do. So those will be very interesting. But I think as long as they can keep, you know, Maguire fit, they can keep Keating, you know, fit as well, and have them as key players in the team as well, I think they've got an absolute chance of finishing in the top 5 this season in the League of Ireland table.
Still, Internet Cross, is Tim Clancy the most underrated manager in the League of Ireland, Cornell?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously, I think Tim Clancy for me is highly underrated. But if you're asking me about who do I think is underrated of the managers in the League of Ireland, I would have to say it has to be Damien Duff for me. Only reason is because he's got that winning mentality that we haven't seen for a very, very long time since last season. So no disrespect towards Tim Clancy for me, but I think for me, if anybody is the most underrated manager of the League of Ireland, I'll probably say 2 actually. Damien Duff is one of them, and Stephen Kenny.
Would you agree, Matt, or do you have
I do agree with him, yeah. But to say I wouldn't count Tim Clancy out of that kind of discussion. I'd say he is underrated, definitely. I mean, there are a few inconsistencies that he needs to line out if he can maybe up the defence strength. But apart from that, yeah, I'd definitely say he's underrated. There's no denying that.
Okay, I'm going to pick this question because the game is about to start. I think it starts at 8, if I'm not wrong. Yeah,
10 minutes, yeah.
So let's discuss it now before it's already happening. How will Shamrock Rovers play tonight? Now, the way I see it is, I hope, like I'm a Cork City fan, but I will support every Irish team. You know, I have fair play. I'm not one of those who doesn't support the rival. I have a different view in Portugal, but we will leave that for another time. How will Shamrock Rovers play tonight? I hope, because I'll be cheering for Rovers, that they will try to win. Because if they will just defend, at some point Mold will score, and they don't know what to do. So I'm here trying to tell the lads, if they can hear me, go for the victory. Don't just try to keep it 0-0 to the end, because that's not the right strategy. You might do that, say, at minute 75, 80, but not from early stages. You need to play like you need to win. So I hope that's what they're going to do. And I believe that the message that has been sent, and I hope that next Thursday when we are here, we're all celebrating that Rovers is promoting Irish football in Europe. Matt, what do you predict?
Well, I hope they win. Yeah, how they play, hopefully well. I'd say it will be a change because obviously they got a bit of a shock on Sunday losing the Bohemians. But I think Bradley would have given them a good run around to make sure they know about what's at stake today, because it's obviously a big game today. It's a chance to put Irish football back on the map, back on the European stage. I think they will play tonight. I think they will get the win over Molde. Maybe 1-0. We'll say it will be a tight game, but 2-0 in aggregate. But it is an opportunity for Shamrock Rovers to, do the greatest run in European history for the League of Ireland. Getting to the Conference League knockout stages would be incredible for Irish football, putting it on the map again. It would just be amazing to see them win. So hopefully they play well tonight. I do believe in them. Cornell, do you have anything to say on it?
Yes, I do. Yes. How I think Shamrock Rovers will play, I think they'll play very well. I think they'll go into this game believing that they can really win the game. Obviously, the atmosphere in the Twilight Stadium is absolutely massive. Obviously the Rovers fans love to make so much noise and make the atmosphere as loud as they can. And what I think will be very interesting as well, touching on this, is that it'll be very interesting to see how they actually cope without Dylan Watts, who's actually one of the best passers who ended last season with 7 assists last season. And obviously Dan Cleary at the back, obviously I think will be very interesting how they'll cope without them. Is he going to go? Will Stephen Bradley go with Graham Burke in that midfield? Will Matt Healy play a part as well? So I think it'll be very interesting to see how he lines up. Will he go all attacking and probably have Grant and Danny Mandroy playing on one side? And I mean, obviously will Noonan play up front? Obviously, I think that'll be another big thing as well. So I think it'll be very interesting to see how Stephen Bradley lines them up, and is he going to play 4-5 at the back and so on. I think it'll be very interesting. But I think for me, the predictions for Shamrock Rovers, I think they'll win 2-0 for me.
Okay, let's move to this weekend game. Stay in Tavat, and the game is Rovers. Well, I made a mistake. I had the 2 R's, but I think it. I'm referring Shamrock Rovers. Shamrock Rovers, Cork City. I will keep the ball with you, Corner. So how do you see Rovers and City performing? Maybe taking in consideration that Rovers has played today, and let's say 2 scenarios. Rovers is delighted with the outcome of tonight's game, or they are disappointed. So how do you expect the game to take place if scenario A or B are impacting the game on Sunday?
How I see the game impacting at the present time, I think it would be a very, very close game, once again, like it was with Bohemians. Cork City will obviously be watching Shamrock Rovers' game tonight, obviously in Europe, and find out what their weaknesses are and how they can exploit their defence. Cork City will obviously be confident going in from drawing against Galway United to come into Shamrock Rovers and really cause another upset, because at the moment we're seeing smaller teams cause upsets to the big teams in the League of Ireland. So I think Sean Maguire and Rory Keating will be looking at this, and I think they'll be looking at their defence and thinking, well, I think they can easily score past their defence. And I think if Cork City can come up with a plan, I think Cork City could really cause an upset to Shamrock Rovers. But I think this is a game where Shamrock Rovers have got to turn up, and I think it'll be very interesting to see how they will be after playing in Europe against Molde FK. So definitely, I think it'll be very interesting.
Matt, anything you want to add or comment?
Well, I think after the game tonight, the Rovers team will be knackered. I mean, they've been going Sunday to Thursday and now to Sunday again. The 3 days, 3 days rest isn't enough, I'd say, especially turning around from a massive European game to go back to the league. I think it could be a draw, I'd say, to put Cork City in fairness. They could maybe get a stingy win over Shamrock Rovers. It all comes down to defence, I'd say. If Shamrock Rovers are able to harden their backline, because it wasn't up to standard on Sunday. So if they are able to fix this issue that's causing them to concede, I think I have Shamrock Rovers down to win, but if they haven't, then I'd say Cork City could cause an upset.
So if people want to put their predictions, we are very eager to read it. Just put it on the comments. Shamrock Rovers 1, Cork City 4. I'll be happy to see that as a Cork City myself. Or if you expect Rovers to gain momentum after beating Mold, put it there. We want to see what's your forecast for Sunday. So I'm going to move to next game. And the next one I have here is Derry Bohemians. Matt, I will keep the ball with you.
Yeah, I mean, Derry obviously had a disappointing result against Shelbourne last Friday. They didn't look a strong team at all. And in a juxtaposing manner, Bohemians had a very strong game. They looked the stronger team against Shamrock Rovers. How do I think it will play out in the Brandywell? I mean, the Brandywell is a very hostile stadium to go to. So it's very hit or miss. Like, I don't see a draw. If it's going to be either Bohemians getting a win or Derry. Who will I pick? I'd say maybe Bohemians can get a 1-0 win over Derry. A very, like 88 minute kind of game. Kind of like how Shells beat them in the last game last season as well.
Cornell, I just put it on the screen that Luke is very optimistic that Derby will hammer Bohemians 4-0. Is it too optimistic from Luke, or
No,
he has reasons for that?
No, I think Luke deserves to be optimistic for Derry City, and Derry City will want to bounce back after losing to Shelbourne last Friday. And look, Derry City, obviously the expectations are on them, and their expectations is for them to go up the table and to challenge for the League of Ireland title. But yeah, I think this game will define how Derry City approach this game and how T and Lynch really lines them up. But I think Derry City will be very confident going into the Bohemians game. But as I've always said, and I've said it most times, don't underestimate Bohemians, because they're coming into this game with so much momentum after beating Shamrock Rovers. So, but I think Derry City will bounce back, and I think Derry City will win.
Let's go down to Waterford and Shelbourne. Matt, how do you see this as a Shelbourne fan?
Well,
in consideration, Waterford seems strong.
Obviously, the Boyism comes into play. I do think Shelbourne will win, but as the result goes, it will either be a very tight knit game, like a 1-0 kind of game, or it will be a hammering. Because if especially compared to last Friday, if Mibo Odubeko gets into form at any stage in that game, it will be a very sad game for any Waterford fans, because he sorts out his issue in front of goal. He could easily, last game, if he would have put his chances away, he could have had a hat trick, 4 goals. It could have been a blowout against Derry City. But yeah, I have Shelbourne down to win. Maybe 2-0, we'll say. A Sean Boyd goal and a Mibo Odubeko goal.
Cornell.
For me, this is a Shelbourne win all over. Obviously, as Matt said, if Mide Obolenko gets into form, and which he will do, obviously the hype is around Obolenko right now. Him and Sean Boyd are just on fire right now with as a two, and Shelbourne obviously want to carry on gaining momentum now that they're top of the table. So I think Waterford could have their work cut out, obviously, depending on how Almond gets on and how their new signings do as well. Don't forget they've got Trey Coyle in there as well. Obolenka as well is also one to watch out for as well too. But I think Shelbourne will just be too strong for Waterford. So I'm definitely Shelbourne to beat Waterford.
In the next one we have here, I think it's very difficult to predict. At least if I would have to put money, I would be quite concerned. It's Galway, St. Patrick's. St. Patrick would have performed last weekend Perhaps I wouldn't hesitate, but given the result with Drogheda, now I'm not sure. What about you, Matt?
Well, obviously, I think I do have St. Pat's down to win. Galway, going to Eamon Dacey Park, it's a very hard place to win. But maybe after the draw against Drogheda at home, it might be a wake-up call for St. Pat's, and it might kick them into another gear. I think it will be maybe 1-0 win. I wouldn't have them down as... I put Galway up as having a pretty good fight, and it could even end up as a draw, a 1-1 draw, I'd say. But if I had to put any money on it, like you said, it is very difficult, but 1-0 Pats, I'd say, would be my guess, personally.
Cornell, would you also think that Pats will turn up and win, even though it's not the easiest place to visit?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think St. Patrick's will win this one. Going to St. Patrick's football ground, Richmond Park, is not easy. It's very, very difficult when you're playing under the lights at Richmond Park, and the atmosphere is completely massive there. So definitely St. Patrick's will win this game, and I think they'll get their first 3 points. Get Aidan McInnes scoring, and their front three, their front four of Zebedee and Mulaney as well, and Kinner as well. Simon Power as well is also one, and then their midfield as well with Chris Forrester when he's fit again, and Lennon as well. Obviously, Romal Palmer as well, and to play his part as well too. So I think St. Patrick's will be up for this game. They'll be going into this game with full confidence and believing that they can get the win. So definitely St. Patrick's win for me.
So I'm conscious we have a couple of comments which are not related to the weekend games, but I want to wrap up and ask the lads to comment the last of the 5 games. Drogheda, Sligo. Another one that is hard for me to say. Maybe a draw. Would you agree with me, Cornell?
A draw possibly for both teams, but I think this game for Drogheda, I think will be one that Drogheda will go into this game because Sligo haven't been at their best of form since the first game of the season, despite that they scored a very, very good goal through Hickey. I think he'll be very, very key for them. But I think Drogheda, for me, are still the underdogs of this division. Excuse me. And I think for me personally, I can definitely see Drogheda winning this one.
Matt, would you think that Drogheda has a good chance to win this game?
I'd say Drogheda will beat Sligo. I mean, people often put Drogheda down. I know they in recent years they haven't been as strong as they'd like to be, but when it comes to Drogheda, I think it's a very underrated team. Like people put them down as getting losing that playoff relegation final against Bray, but they hopped off Bray. I mean, people had them losing against St. Pat's. They got a very good draw out with St. Pat's. People often put down Drogheda, so I'd say Drogheda are going to hop off Sligo, and I think it will be 2 or 3-0. I'd say I'm going to go to extremes here because Sligo just don't look like a strong team. I know they put up a good fight against Waterford, but their recruitment just hasn't been good enough, and I think Drogheda will bury them.
Right, so we cover all the games. Then there's someone here very keen on our opinion on Pyro. This is Pyro is this fire thing, no? Pyro. Sorry.
Yeah.
Pyro. Opinion on Pyro in the league. That's quite a controversial one, I believe. So what would you say, Matt? Are you okay with that, or okay to an extent? And
I'm okay to an extent. I mean, Pyro it's a way to show our passion, our love for our teams. I mean, it's a great way to embody our spirit and how we love the teams into something physical. It has to be used correctly, though. I mean, we've as a Shelbourne fan, we've seen many. I think last year we were playing Drogheda away, and the referee got hit with a pyro stick. That's unacceptable. That if we want to use pyro, we have to use it safely. I mean, but I think it is also on the FAI and the clubs as well, because the FAI often use photos of fans and the atmosphere of players to promote it, and then they're very harsh. They give out fines for it. So I think it's on the clubs and the FAI. They need to provide water buckets in the stands maybe to help put out the flares, because sometimes people get afraid of them and they throw them, and that's what caused the problem in Jota. But overall, I'm for it because it shows the passion, the raw love for the teams. Cornell, do you have any opinion on the Pyro?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think Pyro, as you just said, Matt, is to show our passion for the football and passion for the game. But also, I think it's also wise as well that that I think fans need to understand how they're using it to use it safely. Because if you're going to a football game or you're going to watch a League of Ireland game and you're seeing someone just willy around the Pyro, you have to understand that maybe that person, that fan that's standing next to you, they might have basically health problems or asthma problems and things. So I mean, throwing it on the pitch, I think is not the right thing to do. So I think obviously, to put it into a bucket, I think they should use buckets, to really to make sure it's all about health and safety at the end of the day. But I think and then finding teams, which I think is the right thing to do, but I think it's how they do it. But I think for me personally, I think if it was me, I think if it went to the extreme, maybe pyros should be banned, really.
Yeah.
Someone just added, definitely keep it in the stands and not using it at random times. Absolutely. It's all about having common sense. Like with most things, it's that's how I see it. It's okay to have access to pyro, but be mindful of what you do with that. So I think people need education on that. It's a tough job to tell people to do the right thing, but it's necessary. So it's all about sending the right message to folks. Like, okay, you guys, you can access those things, but there are limits. You cannot just do whatever you want. So I think we all agree on that. Next question I have here is from Luke. What's the key to succeeding in the League of Ireland, both first and Premier, Matt?
I think it's pretty simple across both leagues. You have to defend well. If I were to put it down to one thing, you have to be able to win. You have to be able to win games that you shouldn't be winning, like getting upsets against the bigger clubs in your league, whether that be the First Division or the Premier. You need to be able to get stingy wins. You have to be able to get 1-0 wins on a rainy Monday in Finn Park. You know what I mean? You have to be able to get horrible wins. You have to have a good defense. It's a simple enough league, but if you get the basics down, that would be the key to succeeding, I'd say.
Yeah, there was just one comment. There was a Portuguese manager in the 90s who used to say, goalkeeper is half team. I never forget that. And I truly endorse that comment, because it's not just the way he protects the goal, it's how he tells tell the others that they can do their job because he's there. So I think a goalkeeper is absolutely key. Like sometimes I think, and it's not a comment related to Irish fans, it's a generic. Sometimes we don't give enough credit to the keepers. That's how I see it. Cornell, what is the secret or the key?
The key of succeeding in the League of Ireland from both the first and the Premier is it's about having a good defence, a good midfield, good final third, having great tactics as well, having a good strategy going into the game, making the right subs, bringing on the right players, bringing in the right players as well. And also just having that winning mentality as well is also important of succeeding in the first and the Premier Division as well. And then most importantly, I think as well, making sure that you can get the results out of the way and win your games, even because the success, the key of football is you win some, you draw some, you lose some, and also how you really come back from that loss, or how you respond from that draw as well. So that's also the key of it as well. And I think going into the history books as well, how you got that done, how that team won that game or won that trophy.
And talking of succeeding, here is some news for us. Rovers is taking the lead 1-0 after 10 minutes. So that's good news. That means now Mo needs to score 2. And if they score 2, if I'm not mistaken, they won't be ahead in the whole thing, because I think away goals don't count anymore. No, I think they finished
that's
at
1-0 to Molde.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's 1-0 to Molde. Okay. Yeah. Sorry for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was too excited with that. So sorry for the Rovers fans. It's 1-0 to Molde. Yeah. Okay.
It's a bit disappointing for Shamrock Rovers, I think. That they, I mean, obviously we're not watching the match, we're focusing on the podcast now, but you'd have to hope Rovers turn this around, because it's a very big opportunity. Oh, from the looks of it, a VAR check as well.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. Keep us updated, Luke.
Yeah, keep us updated, Luke, man. Yeah. Okay, I'll keep an eye on the comments as we move to the next question. So what will be next? Sorry, I got too excited here. There's one more about manager. Let's see if I get it. Sorry, I missed the questions here. Comments. Goal stands. So bad news.
It's going to be a tough day for Shamrock Rovers fans then.
Yeah.
There are 80 minutes of suffering.
Who do you guys think will be the first manager sacked?
Personally, I think Ian Russell for Sligo Rovers. He hasn't recruited well at all. I mean, obviously, it was a disappointing loss against Waterford for himself. I mean, he hasn't recruited at all. Like, he brought in Jadakiki and he brought in, I think, one more player before the end of it, but before the first match, but he just hasn't done enough. And it is really disappointing considering what the position he was in last year. He was in a very strong position, and people, he was he was fighting for Europe, and now it could be a very doldrum year for Sligo. So if I were to put anyone down, I'd say Ian Russell would be first.
Yeah, just before I pass the ball to Cornell, like you mentioned a couple of times, Matt, that they didn't hire much. I'm just curious myself. That's a question that is coming from me. Is it because they don't have the budget, or they have a different approach? They want to be conservative and keep the players from last year. Is that a rationale for them not to be out and about hiring?
I'd say it could be budget, but also you have to be able to make do out with situations. I mean, Damien Duff in his first year at Shelbourne didn't have a sizable budget, but he still made do, and he got 7th place and an FA Cup final. Yeah, this league puts clubs in tough positions, and the main thing that makes a good manager in this league a bad one is being able to work in those tough, kind of grim situations. And Ian Russell is in a very grim situation when having a bad transfer window, losing a lot of key players. So if he can get out of it, fair play to him. But I don't see him getting out of it. I think he will be the first manager sacked.
Cornell, is it also your prediction?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think John Russell will be the first one to be sacked, because you could clearly see that Sligo Rovers are not at their best right now. Like they've brought Hinkie in, and they've brought Sam Sargent in. They've brought like Matt Wilfie in it, but it's not enough. You look at Sligo Rovers last season. They had Edish Chapman in the team. They had Ed McGinty in their team. They had players that really was working hard last season, and they really were going up the table. And since that time, since Edish Chapman and Ed McGinty's now gone now, you can clearly see that Saloga Rovers haven't been good enough and in the recruitment. Yes, it could be to do with the budget. Maybe they're thinking, well, they may not have enough in the kitty for them to go and buy the players that they want. But, it's about replacing those players. It's about replacing, yes, they replaced Ed McGinty with Sam Sargent. Yeah, of course, that's a decent signing. He might not be as good as how Ed McGinty is right now. But then you look at Matt Wilf, who's replaced Ellis Chapman. But at the ending of the day, if you can't bring in the right players and you can't get the results that you want, that obviously Saloga Rovers want, then you are in problems. So I think if the results don't go his way, don't go John Russell's way, then I think for me, John Russell is going to be the first one to be sacked from as Saloga Rovers manager.
So I think we got great engagement here. So I want to thank the audience. It was fantastic. So you kept ourselves busy. We were thinking of running this between 45 minutes and an hour. It's now 1 hour 15 minutes. So we are here, but we are here because we felt your interest. So thank you very much. I think we were not expecting this overwhelming amount of messages. It was great. So we'll be here again next Thursday and following Thursday, and hopefully till November. So that's the intent. And if we see this much of passion on the other side, we'll show up with delight as we did today. So I want to thank Matt and Cornell for this fantastic conversation. I think it was quite dynamic, and I hope to see you guys soon, and the people on the other side of the screen as well. So I'm going to make a closure, and we're all going to cheer for Rovers.
Come on, Shamrock Rovers.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
You too.